Hello, Trendliner. In today's video, I'm going to show you an extremely important point. After all, most people who already understand pivots don't lose money because they misread the pivot. They literally lose money because they make a mistake with something else. I believe this has already happened to a lot of people. They read the market and then they make a mistake, the high. You already understand how it works, but you still make mistakes when it's time to exit the market. At that moment, you set the high, but you keep setting it wrong. Or worse, there are people who do something even worse than that. And what is it? They set a high and suddenly the market moves in the opposite direction. For one reason or another, the person cancels the order and then they look back. And the market went in the direction they had planned, hit the target, and they missed out on profit. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to identify targets. Let me say right away, a target is not just about price. Imagine that a player is about to enter the market now and says, oh, I'm going to sell when it reaches 87,000 reais. I'm going to sell at 87,500. This happens with most players. Let me check here. More than 90% of players will set something at a specific value. And I even say this a lot in my videos. I set something at a specific value because on average, I'm speaking to an audience that might not have advanced knowledge to define a target. And this video is an advanced video about defining a target. So rest assured that by the end of the video, you'll understand that a target is not just the market price. And now let's understand an idea to create this movement. Stay tuned. Here on the 4-hour chart, I have a movement, a selling movement. And then you have the trend over there in Delta, just a reminder. One of them, it's available for free in the trend. You set the trend over there in Delta. You'll see that the moving averages are shifting over time. And you'll also notice another point. That study we just went over, where we explained how to identify a trend. Remember, we've already shown in the video here how to identify a market trend. Then how to define your pivot point, right? Now you're actually going to put it into practice in the market. You just looked and saw that the trend was downward. So what are you going to wait for? An upward pivot. And here's a tip. Usually the moving average regions can be very useful for marking tops and bottoms, and they can also be quite helpful for reading pivots. So let's imagine the following. Did you see it? You saw the downtrend, saw that the market held well around 80,000 and noticed that the market didn't break through here around the 92 region. Look at the 4-hour chart. There's a bigger upward leg. That's what you just saw. The market dropped to the 84 region, forming a higher low than the previous one. And what does that mean? The pivot is set up. When will the pivot be confirmed? When it breaks out. I explained this up to here, no problem. It's a classic market move. So what can happen next? The pivot broke the top when it broke out. How am I going to define, or how do I define some of them? First, by carefully looking at the specific region at the very top where the various moving averages are perfectly aligned. These significant averages are clearly pointing downwards, specifically the red, yellow, blue, and green lines, which is the highest moving average in this alignment of 4 averages. At the moment is this region here around $96,000. So that's exactly one way for you to identify something. Another way to identify something in the region from the average at this point here, blue. And here it already starts to show in practice a difference between the target and the price. Remembering that at this moment, the average is in the 98 region. As time goes by, your average tends to go down. So the moving average is trending downward. Normally, the number of sell orders in this region increases. So here suddenly, imagine someone who arrived for whatever reason and caught the average here at 100,000. And they literally wrote down the price at 100,000. But as time went by, the average started to go down. So this average no longer corresponds to 100,000. Now it's in the 97, 98 region. So the 97, 98 region at that moment is an important target. How does that work out? It's also not very useful to identify it in the following way. It broke through. I'm going to set a target $100 above or here, and now look, the top was 93,150, so I'll get out at 94. Historically, I don't like to go too deep into this kind of analysis because I prefer to identify the following. Is it better to set the target at a pure 94, or is it better to mark a point where I see there's going to be an increase in selling pressure? So I'll mark a point, a region where there's an increase in selling pressure, and imagine the following. I'm not even looking at delta. How can I work with this? I look for the content. Look, this region here, which comes in a bear market, is where we can see that the current top is similar to this body. Here before it, which region was the body? I already see this region here at 95.9. Got it. And then it's important, it's not specifically 95,900. You can get there and set it from 95.8 up to 96.4. As the region that would tend to have very strong selling pressure, so there's a way to identify it. It's precisely the region that was the previous top, or when I have an upward movement and then it reverses. For a downward move, the bearish pivot tends to go after the region that was the bottom. Previously, it tends to go after the average within the trendline delta, remembering that the average is not a static price. It varies according to the period. And another reading that I use to analyze it, to work with, is to use the Fibonacci extension. Within TrendView, you'll look for the icon with the Fibonacci extension here and mark the lowest point of the move, then the highest point of the move, and then the subsequent low. Low, high, low. Take a look here now. And it will clearly demonstrate that the significant 9.6 region is indeed a crucial area of interest, with the specific 96.2, 0.4, 0.6 region also exhibiting considerable importance and activity. Consequently, the current market move is visibly gaining substantial strength and momentum here. Therefore, the immediate and crucial next target for observation is consistently the 4 region, primarily because my analytical approach heavily emphasizes the identification and interpretation of these distinct regions rather than focusing on other less pertinent factors. To put it this way, I'll talk about the region, I won't mention the price. The target is always 4.4 because the market depends on liquidity, volume, and the number of orders at that spot. It's no use just aiming for 4.4. And suddenly the market comes in strong and places a big order here at always. 4 doesn't even wait for 104.4. Do you see here? The market placed a large order. That amount of orders is going to make it much harder for 104.4 to be reached. So another important point is to look at how the orders are distributed within that region. With that, you have 3 points that have already become quite clear at the open. You can use the Fibonacci extension. And to see the region, you can only take the previous high. When it's a bullish pivot, you can only take the previous low when it's a bearish pivot. And also for those who are already working on building a delta leg, you can use the top of the 4 moving averages when it's a move in a bullish pivot, or the bottom of the 4 when it's in a bearish pivot. So what happens then? Did I show you what it's for in this move? Now let's look at another move. I also have a corrective move, mainly a sell, and the corrective was this upward movement. Because, it's easy to talk a lot about a move that's already happened. Let's project something that could happen. So the market reached this high here. I take the low and I'll wait to see what the market does next. And the low here, look, I have it now. Market with a low at 80,000, market with a high at 99, and for now, the market with a low at 85,000. What exactly is my precise target for this particular market? I am going to meticulously work with the comprehensive extension that originates from the absolute low point, and then I will carefully observe and analyze this crucial development with great attention to detail. To the region of 104,000, I already marked that area there, and that's already 4,000. You can set it from 3 up to, let's say, 4 here. It's a region that will tend to have very strong selling pressure. If the market forms a bullish pivot in this reading of a larger movement, because it captures the entire upward wave at this point. So stay alert, because we have this way of reading. You saw how I would set it up based on the bullish pivot. I close the Fibonacci extension here. I closed here. The line in this region, 99,000, there is an area that was a previous high. Look, just see what happens. Look, this region here, always at 7,000. So I know that from 104 to 17, there will be strong movement. Sellers coming in. I can't just look here and say, it's another important region to work with. And to conclude the analysis, I explained that this low here, this average here, can often be used as a target. Now, imagine during the movement, as it is now, the market broke through 32. It will stay above all the moving averages. In this context, the average will act as support. And then as support, it's also fundamental for you to defend your position. So defend the trade. The trade was accumulating. You can mark a region as your target to hit and get out at that area. And you can also mark a region to protect profits and defend gains. That's exactly the topic of our next video. So if you liked it, go ahead and leave a like, leave your question, leave your comment. Happy studying, and see you in the next video.